I'm feeling it too. It's been a few days, and all of my self-soothing tools, or at least a lot of them, have failed. And I know that many millions of people on the planet are navigating the same energies. I was in tears almost all yesterday. My family just doing everything they can, from reading to me. I have anxiety medication. Keep in mind, these last 2 days, the 2 healers that I usually go to help me with my energy, we're not only also feeling the energy, they reached out to me. Anxiety is never about what do I need to do more of, and reaching outside of yourself from someone who has navigated full-blown PTSD. I can assure you, every time you reach outside of yourself for relief, it's not going to work. Anxiety is a suppression of emotions, or a suppression of allowing yourself to be where you want to be. One of the two, either a suppressing of your emotions or a suppression of allowing yourself to be where you want to be. Now, you could see in my particular situation that the latter would probably give me a lot of anxiety every day. And it has that potential. But the prior, suppressing of emotion, is a hard one, because if you're also navigating other challenges in your life, like you're short on rent this month, you're navigating relationship challenges, you haven't heard back the test result, from a test you took, medical test, or the bar exam, there's all kinds of reasons to be nervous, but there are only a few reasons to suppress emotion, which causes the experience of anxiety. Number one, you see the emotion itself as wrong. So, if you feel sad, for instance, but you have the innate belief that sadness is either wrong, or that it's wrong for you to feel sadness, or an even broader general belief, it's wrong for women to feel sadness, or it's wrong for a mom to feel sadness, or it's wrong for somebody who has plenty to eat to feel sadness, whatever it may be. These are the reasons why we choose to suppress emotion, and the nervous system has nowhere to go with that, you see. The nervous system says, well, I can't store this. So it stores it in the body if it has no way to express. And that act of storing that feeling, that emotion, that expression in the body is causes a feeling of desperation in and of itself. It's kind of like the last resort, the last straw to treat. The only other thing, I said there were two, and you could listen to the back of the beginning of this video. But there also is a third physical expression of a reason why anxiety comes about, which is indigestion. It can either be from the upper intestinal tracts or the stomach. So start noticing whether your anxiety peaks on a day. For instance, today I had to have a bowel movement. I don't care if this is too much information. Y'all are big people. I had almost like diarrhea type symptoms, which means my digestive tract was not happy. And for me to have a bowel movement twice, not only in one day, but within an hour and a half of each other, and of course that involves me and my whole family painstakingly getting me out of bed to do that. You know that there's upset. There's a reason why they call it stomach upset. So back to the number game. Number one, you're either suppressing emotion. Two, you're suppressing yourself from physically being where you want to be. That could look like you're in a work meeting when you're looking out the window and you really want to be out in the garden. Or maybe you're in a traumatizing situation with a partner yelling at you and you really just don't want to be there, but you're not giving permission to your legs to walk out and be somewhere else. And then number three, the third reason for anxiety is, again, the gastrointestinal connection. So once you've checked all of these, and if you check for sure that they all are good to go and all those pathways are open and working and healthy, I would tell you right now, congratulations, you don't have anxiety. That's how sure, after 10 years of navigating severe anxiety and PTSD, that's an OCD for 30 years, 35 years. For those of you who don't know, OCD is a condition that's on the spectrum of anxiety disorders. I could tell you, you don't have anxiety. You feel nervous, or it's something else. So that's how sure I am. Now, today, I couldn't knock out the gastrointestinal part. I couldn't just take a single pill and have my whole digestive tract feel okay. Oh, somebody wants me to talk about this fourth aspect. I like to process out loud. Okay, a fourth possibility, and no, I'm not being trendy. This is real, and I've had this experience in my own body. Die off from either bacteria kill, viral kill, or a parasitic kill causes extreme extreme anxiety, because you're quite literally empathing the feeling of the microorganisms dying and the anxiety that comes with that, because of the neurotoxins that are released as a result. And I give myself permission to have more, but those are the top four. So today, again, because I had like pretty wonky digestive movement, digestive system, there's a high likelihood that all of this is related to that, number one. But the fact that it's in the field, like I said, it's in the collective field. I didn't say there wasn't ways you can exacerbate anxiety. So let me tell you the ways you can exacerbate anxiety that's already caused by one of those four symptoms. Number one, I know you hate to say it, but doom scrolling. I'm not talking about intentional scrolling. When you put in, I want to watch baby elephants take a bath, right? Because that could be very calming, engaging, so you're not overthinking. And I'm talking about the kind of scrolling where you are literally giving your entire mental health and your life over to, let's say, like a TikTok, where it's just kind of, you're just kind of giving permission to the algorithm to dictate how you're going to feel. Please, if you're going to do that, at least make sure that you set up ground rules beforehand, which looks like, for me, a ground rule would be, don't click on anything that says Trump or Charlie Kirk, right? And like my rule to myself would be, if I break that rule, I need to get off, because I'm not committed to my mental health if that's the case. Or put yourself in a container of time. So that looks like, okay, I think watching these elephant videos of elephants getting bathed could relieve some of this. So let's give it 15 minutes. And if I don't honestly feeling better after 15 minutes, do a little alarm, then I'm going to try something else. These are all coping mechanisms, right? It's just not the answer. So that's an example of a coping mechanism. The main answer, of course, is to get rid of the reason why the anxiety exists. See number 1 through 4. I can't tell you what to do with your stomach. Please look up your local naturopath or go to your MD and figure out that part. I can't tell you how to live your life as far as making sure you give yourself permission to have your physical body be where your physical body wants to be, whether that's inside, outside, in sunlight, in shade, and also how it wants to be, meaning, does it want to be covered in a blanket? Does it want a fan on it? Does it prefer cave-like energy? My body prefers cave-like energy, which is why even if I were, fully mobile, I'd either be in the middle of the forest, sitting at a river by myself, or, or in kind of a covered area, or I'd be in my room. It makes me feel safe. Or the position, which obviously for someone in my position is also more challenging. But it can be as simple as that. It could be as simple as uncross your legs, unfold your arms, sit in a different chair, get a pillow for comfort. The idea behind any anxiety disorder is that we want to get out of the mind. We're done negotiating with the mind, right? In any anxiety disorder on the spectrum, negotiating with the mind is rarely a thing in the process of an attack itself. You can negotiate with parts of the mind when you're actually not under extreme pressure to release anxiety. When you're going to a regularly scheduled therapy session, for instance, or anything that's not in the midst of an actual panic attack. You can work with the mind, but if you're in the midst of either the rise or the descent of a panic attack, this is not the time to negotiate with your brain. Now listen closely. It's also not the time for your your mind to renegotiate with yourself. And like that will, your brain is already screaming. So at this time, what's needed is to drop into the body. What does it mean to drop into the body? It quite literally means, and please be messy about this, do anything you need to do to bring the most important sensations that your brain has to process into the body. For me, sometimes that means I ask my dad to squeeze lightly on my arms or my hands in a very kind of methodical way, so that anytime my brain tries to hijack my anxiety again, it won't be but another 10 or 20 seconds to where that hand squeeze comes in, and it doesn't intellectually remind me to drop into my body. It physically reminds me to drop into my body. So it just feels like I'm trying to bring the anxiety up here. It feels like, oh, attention down there. Try to bring it up here again. Oh, attention down there. Believe it or not, that can stave off an attack pretty well. If you want to double down on that, ice for me is huge. So this is an ice pack. Most of the time, it's ice because of nerve pain in and around my face and head, which is super helpful. But in the case of anxiety, it just kind of stuns the nerves, and it kind of has the whole body going, what is that foreign feeling? And we need to pay attention to that. I'll also try to keep, because the hands are so extrasensory, I'll also try to keep an ice pack underneath my hands and just put my hand on a freezing cold ice pack and breathe. And if I need more points, I'll put some ice packs on my stomach or any other place where it's like, okay, now my brain is fully filled up with every place it feels it needs to be other than in a center of anxiety. So that's the long of navigating these times. Now the collective energy, I guess that's ultimately going to be number 5, that feeling of So let me speak to the collective energy of anxiety. The collective energy of anxiety is trauma-based. It's not feeling-based. Because I swear, and go back to the beginning of this video if you just got here, in my experience of 10 years navigating anxiety disorders, these 4 reasons that I shared with you are really the only reasons that I feel anxiety in the first place. Something like, again, doom scrolling is just going to exacerbate the feeling. In other words, it's not helpful. It's not bad or wrong, and it's not anxiety causing, but it will exacerbate it. Tuning into collective energy, that field is not the energy or the frequency of anxiety. That field is the energy or the frequency of collective trauma, which can be exacerbated by doom scrolling, by asking similar collective questions that we ask ourselves in order to try to feel better, to attempt a coping mechanism, when the reality is it's unhelpful. And the question that we often ask, whether it's for ourselves or for the collective, is, well, what can I do about it? And then, oftentimes, if we can't do anything immediately about it, there's a fall-off thought that comes, and that fall-off thought is, I'm helpless. I'm either, it's usually I'm helpless or I'm hopeless, which is you telling your brain, whether consciously or unconsciously, that that there's no way out of this particular sensation, that all is lost, and that there is no middle or end to this level of anxiety, that there's only forever and the threat of it forever staying. That's when personal accountability comes in. That's when learning about your anxiety disorder and learning how to speak to yourself, what helps and what is absolutely unhelpful, is helpful. So an example would be, don't worry about it. Like, it's not yours to worry about. You'll feel better tomorrow. That's not helpful. That's way too much information, first of all. You're speaking to someone who has no emotional intelligence by trying to cope in that way, when really you need to create yourself as the person that knows what you need to hear and feel emotionally from yourself the most. Now, I'm going to indulge myself with some raw processing, because I've been navigating anxiety higher level than normal for the past 2 days, along with a lot of you that have been, or those of you rather that have been messaging me. So I'm just going to tap into my emotional center. I haven't done this work yet, but I know it's there, and I've been ignoring it and putting it off because I don't want to go there. So I feel depression there. Yeah, that gives me a little release. It just wants to be acknowledged. I feel discomfort, physical discomfort. I feel fear. Scared. It sounds like it should be the same as fear, but to the brain, fear and scared don't compute the same. Anger. Anger, 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 anger. Helplessness. more fear. More scared. Anger. Worry. Again, that's a very particular word. The word worry feels differently to the brain than something like concern, or even something like than nervousness or anxiety. Worry is a unique feeling. Now, for those of you who have super good headphones, you might have just heard my whole stomach gurgle. Oftentimes, when I'm doing emotional clearings, I'm going to say more than often, I'm going to say 96% of the time, when I'm doing an emotional clearing, I get movement in my gastrointestinal tract or my stomach, period. It happens 96% of the time. So going back to the beginning of this video, you'll understand more about that. Shame. Exhaustion. Trying to hold it together. So that doesn't sound like an emotion, but subtle and abstract emotions can be just as, if not more, charged than your everyday 1 through 8, hate, jealousy, fear, happiness, sadness, depression, your basics. Sometimes if you can hit the nail on the head of just how unique and customized the feeling is by describing it, even if wonkily describing it, then you just gave yourself a huge pressure release. Starting to feel some lightness in my body again. Expectations. So it's this feeling of pressure, but the word that came up was expectations. And just needing to let my body know this is not the time to have those internal dialogues with ourselves. This is just the time to feel, name, and acknowledge the present. And then we could go into something a little bit later. But the first round is just feel, listen, feel, acknowledge, and accept the presence. Do you hear more of my stomach moving? More worry. So I've mentioned certain emotions twice, and it's important because I'm going superficially to the most deepest layers. There's going to be layers upon layers, and it's important just to acknowledge the layer in between the layer. It's kind of like they're giving me a subjective example. It's kind of like if your husband came in and you were like, there's a flood, and he picked up like 2 cups of water off the floor, and you were like, I got the water, and you're like, that's not helpful, right? Because you see that the quantity also is there, and you also see that the water is on the subflooring, and so he's not really acknowledging the level of the impact of said flood by just picking up the top 2 layers. Similar with this process. Let me see if I could pick up any more. You'll already sense in my energetic field and the way that I'm being, that I'm feeling lighter. If you go to the very top of this video, you'll see that it's already shifting my energy. More anger. More fear, and this time fear is coming up with a little bit of something that they want me to mention, just fear of tomorrow being another of the same experience, fear of having to, you see that? It's exactly what it needed me to express, and there's that physical release accompanying it. There's a fear of tomorrow being the same and having to just be in battle against this feeling, this overarching experience of anxiety all day again tomorrow. So there's a trauma response coming up for me. And I get to look at this when I'm not, on a live with you. But I'll share what it is. There's this feeling of fear specifically around me not being able to help someone else or someone else that needs help. Me being put into a position where I have to say, not only can I not help you, I can't even refer, I don't even have the energy to refer you to someone, or, in my practice, I've prided myself over 20 years of being an entrepreneur, if I can't help somebody, to, in the very least, set them up for success, whether that's referring them to resources or other practitioners who I believe could help them. So there's this fear that I be in a position where I'm unhelpful at all. And so that's a trauma response for me. Meaning I've come across that before, so I get to take a deeper look at that and do some healing around that. We won't get into that. A feeling of upsetness. And it is directly connected to my stomach and the indigestion I've been having the past few days. And a wishing that it was just as simple as eating what my body needs, and that didn't also have to be connected to the position of my body or the timing of eating. And some resentment is coming up around that. Now, some of you might be asking, why is she drawing this out so much? Now, after 2 days of feeling anxiety, I would imagine this should draw out longer. But if we do these emotional check-ins, like we brush our teeth or wash our hands, then our emotional hygiene should be on point, in that we won't have to have these long drawn-out sessions so often. Shorter check-ins can be just as workable and effective. That feels like it's it for right now. I'm going to let myself live in that feeling of being acknowledged and felt without trying to fix it. I will go back as soon as I get off this call, and I will work with that trauma response, which is something I can work with to where it won't show up again in the same way. I could double check all of those emotions that I was suppressing just by muscle testing. It's something you could look up online, cross-reference, and learn how to muscle test so you know what your body is thinking and feeling and needing. Just an easy way. I still have this feeling of uneasiness, and it is connected to, feels like it's connected to the gastrointestinal challenges I've had. So I'm just having a conversation with myself saying, okay, well, we're not going to eat unless you say so, and we're going to take any medication that you need, and we're not going to question that. So that might look like an antacid, it might look like a digestive enzyme, whatever it looks like for you. And just a reminder to all of my all-natural girlfriends and guy friends who prefer not to take pharmaceuticals, which I 1,000% understand. And I just want to share to ask yourself this question, right? To ask yourself, does this whatever I am asking of myself right now feel like it's harder on my nervous system than this other choice. If you have two choices, one choice is to completely cut the pain out so you're not grimacing, having short breath, and stressing yourself out. Which is the lesser of two evils? And these are conversations, unfortunately, we do need to have with ourselves. Stress being the number one cause of any and all disease. So, putting aside, the toxicity of pharmaceuticals, the physical stress it does put on your, I won't say does, but can put on your liver and kidneys and cleansing systems. Putting that aside to assess what is the container of time I'm willing to try to self-soothe or to move through whatever this pain, this nausea, this anxiety is before I just recognize that my nervous system needs a fucking break. No matter how that looks, I just encourage you to, in the very least, ask that question. I was in a position for many years where everything was black and white, which is pretty common for someone with OCD, or certainly in an OCD spiral. And it became really relieving to my body when it realized I was no longer making black and white decisions for it. It became very relieving to my body to realize I was intuiting every single decision. It wasn't Rachel only drinks celery juice and only eats after 12. It was what feels right for me now. What feels highest and best for all of our parts, not just our body, our mind, our nervous system, our psyche, our emotions. Yeah. I love you all so much. I genuinely hope you get relief. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you.